Yeah, bud. Yeah, bud.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Lynn, you can actually ride on my shoulder anytime in the backcountry. Just hop on the back of my sled. We'll go for a rip. It'd be fun, trust me.
A little fire.
Yeah, a little fire. It's good for you. Okay, first speaker of the day. Here we are. Thank you to WYSAW, Teton County Search and Rescue, everybody here. I feel like we're an undervoiced portion of the backcountry community. So anytime I get a chance to speak about what we do and relate it to what you do, not dividing us, but really trying to bring us together and share the perspective. All right, so let's kick off with a classic. I'm sure a lot of you in here know this one. I'm gonna dive into slope scale. And what that is when we dial in our focus into one slope. In order to do this correctly, we really need to know quite a bit of information about that slope, right? So we're talking about aspect, elevation, weather effects, where does it live within the range, normal wind direction, how much loading can occur. Now you can get as dialed as what the ground cover is, or you can even map out specifics, right? But you need to identify, is it avalanche terrain, and how steep is it? What are the features of that slope? Where are the safe zones? Where are the trigger points? Where are the terrain traps? Are there any benches, gullies, cliffs, trees, right? How does the slope actually flow? Kind of think about it in yesterday's panel too. Where would you lay that ski cut? And finally, how good is the skiing? All right, so if you're planning to ski or snowboard on this slope, and it's one of the lines that's a normal route for you, then chances are you watch every single storm that hits this line. You have a good understanding of how much snow's on the ground and about how much snow fell during each storm. And I'm betting that if it's avalanche terrain, you probably watch the avalanche cycles, and you can even tell me each avalanche that has occurred on that slope and how big it went. So if you could visualize right now, either glory, because that's what I was showing you pictures of, or another slope that you visit. But I want you to be thinking about building a catalog of items and events that pertain to this one slope. Things like avalanches, different storms, how much snow's on the ground, the different features on the slope, the trigger points, the safe zones, runouts, you get the idea. You're able to get very intimate with this slope. And you can repeat this process for a whole lot of slopes, right? When we go skiing or hiking to snowboard or ski, we have the time to get very intimate with the terrain. We also generally have a lower number of runs that we'll do in a day. Take me, for example. I'm more of your like one and done, maybe up to 3 runs if I'm split boarding a day. Yeah, so a low number of runs in one day. So usually we have, sorry, messing up my notes here. I usually have a plan in place to accomplish those 3 runs, and I'm thinking about this plan hours before I'm actually engaged with the slope or dropping in, right? Okay, for ease, let's just think about 1 run in the day. Let's think about how we're gonna go up and then back down. How much time we're gonna spend adjacent to or engaged with this specific slope. How many points of contacts will you have? What observations will you be able to gather? And what conditions will you be able to monitor on your way up? And how long will that way up take? Will this amount of time you have be helpful to your end goal? Did you spend the previous days, weeks, or even months tracking the weather, waiting for this moment to ascend so you can descend for some epic turns, or accomplish that objective that you've been waiting to accomplish? How much time have you actually invested into this one slope? Okay, before we transition, let's touch about the process we have as split boarders. You're going split boarding with me right now. We talked about monitoring the season's conditions pertaining to this one slope. So that's kind of ongoing. Then we consider our partners anticipate conditions, create terrain buffers, and confirm details. This is all dialed in to the slope scale based on what our objective is for that day. We really create an intimate relationship with each slope. We look at the up, and some of us dial in that up route exactly down to where each switchback is placed on that skin track. Okay, the red line is our up track. And for this one, I'm pretty sure it's a boot pack, although I've actually never been up Glory. But we identify our up, and due to the amount of time that it takes to go up, we choose the safest terrain possible as to avoid exposure. Kind of like Mark was talking about yesterday, if you caught that, he's noticed some changes in some of that thinking. Sounds like there's up tracks all over the place in certain areas now. But generally, that's our rule, right? We want to avoid exposure because it's going to take us a lot of time on that up. So we travel with our partners and usually just focus on the epic workout that we're getting. If there's any spots we need to pay attention, we space out or make a plan for that location, and then we continue on. Once we top out, we transition for the fun part. So the blue line is the proposed descent. And as we've talked about here, we've identified intimate information about this slope. We make a plan with our partners of how to enter the slope and continue down it, getting the epic turns that we planned for. Obviously, there's a lot more that we could talk about how to travel in avalanche terrain, but that's not the focus of my talk, so I'm just gonna skip over that part and leave you with a perfect run on Glory with no issues. Looking at these two lines, we're generally only dealing with two aspects, with around 1,600 feet of elevation gain and around a 2,000-foot descent. We have the information and the time to really dive into specifics of accomplishing this objective. We have detailed perspective and are zoned in on this slope. This is generally a common practice. All right, let's drop in, right? Now, there can be a lot of ways to do this, and I really enjoy the personal touch everyone puts on their line. But we still have a pretty intimate relationship with dropping in, knowing where to place your first few turns, when to let it run, what to pop off, and how you're going to exit. I mean, we just spent a lot of time to get to this point where we get to drop in. We've thought about it, planned it, worked for it, and some of us dream about exactly how we're going to shred this line. So it's that intimate relationship at this slope scale that we do when we're backcountry skiing or snowboarding. Now, come sledding with me. Here's, I'd say, a pretty normal sled day. And as you can see, it's a full day. You can see the yellow-orange track here from my Gaia app tracking where we went. So 9 hours, pretty average, 58 miles, a ton of ascent and descent. We traveled every aspect, found a wide variety of terrain from steep slopes on west faces to north shaded aspects, western features to jump and east facing patterns. Gullies, creeks, pillow zones, covered lakes, ridge lines, tree zones, open marshmallow granite zones, steep faces, a couple chutes, and plenty of non-avalanche terrain. As we zoom in, you can see the amount of time spent enjoying features or doing slope tests on inconsequential terrain. The amount of time spent here on that day in Deer Lake could be anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. If you're using features like this, you kind of hang out there, maybe park, watch your buddy, have a lot of fun, gather a lot of information about the slopes that you're playing on. We ended up playing around on the edges of the lakes, found some really cool features, gained some observations, and probably took a little break. So we had the chance to get intimate with this zone, getting observations, looking for instability, understanding more about what was going on, But it didn't last all that long because we decided to continue on our ride, especially because we kind of used up all the features in this zone. So it's the linear, nonlinear travel from spot to spot where sledders are engaging with multiple aspects, features, and conditions. And some riders actually just spend their entire day that way. Putting in a long point-to-point ride, a loop, or an out and back, but their style of riding is to continuously move and not stop, not even to enjoy features. This would mean they're putting in a lot of miles, changing aspect, elevation, and seeing a wide variety of conditions. This would be looking at things from the perspective of a drainage scale, planning a route and using the terrain with a much larger lens or zoomed out. A tricky thing about riding through terrain at a drainage scale is having that intimate understanding of each slope, knowing the details that we talked about on our split board tour just a moment ago. Sledders have to bounce back and forth from slope scale to drainage scale, not only for navigation, but also for tracking conditions, thinking about the avalanche problem, or perhaps problems, how they're changing where we're going, and what else is changing where we are going. Our time spent in one area is very limited, unless, of course, you're enjoying features. All right, so at a drainage scale, we still need to understand some information, like one would if they were looking at a single slope, but we need to have a slightly different perspective. How does the weather affect the region we're going to? What are the normal winds? How can we track the weak layer, avalanches, how much snow is on the ground, at what elevations? We also need to know where avalanches live in the terrain or where the avalanche terrain is, and where's the problem. When we talk about the different features, instead of trigger points and safe zones on one slope, we need to think of ridge lines, drainages, large avalanche paths, and how the terrain changes. Where are the safe routes we can travel, and then dive back into the slope scale when we're engaging with a specific slope. So I find myself zooming in and zooming out throughout the day, riding, trying to get details on both scales. I think of the biggest differences in my days as a sledder and my days as a splitboarder is the frequency and speed of decision making. On my sled, when we're covering ground, I need to observe upcoming slopes, understand how the snowpack is changing underneath me, and how it's changing as the terrain changes. So my decisions are coming pretty quickly. Not to mention, I need to have a plan for where my sled can go and my ability. So what's above me? What's below me? What happens if this slides? This is a mantra I picked up from a good friend of mine, Jeremy Hankey, up in Canada. And not only does this keep your head on a swivel, but if you ride with this thought process, then you're constantly evaluating terrain and your line from a safety and ability standpoint. Because you're kind of always looking at terrain thinking if you can ride it or not, but you also need to be thinking about how the snowpack is laying over said terrain or the features. Being able to quickly assess your riding is a vital skill. I actually feel a lot more vulnerable when I'm out splitboarding because the amount of time that one could potentially be exposed to one problem. Whereas on my snowmobile, I'm in and out of terrain, looking at features of the entire zone and having to engage with multiple paths in succession, but it feels like I have way more options. All right, so now how about some similarities and process? When sledders catalog seasonal information, it's generally not about specific slopes or small zones. We think about entire riding areas. What did the storm do at Togety Pass? Or how's the weak layer doing in the Snake River Range? Human-powered people do this also, but I think it's more of a general, so we can understand what region is doing as a whole to identify which slope to put on today's agenda. The daily process: consider your partners, anticipate conditions, create terrain buffers, and confirm details. This should sound the same no matter what mode of transportation or device you're using in the backcountry. However, each of these steps is pretty much dialed in at a different perspective. For sledding, we tend to have a broader scope. For example, certain terrain buffers might be talking about avoiding one aspect of a creek on this drainage while moving to another aspect on the drainage around a corner, or perhaps avoiding all north aspects at a certain elevation and above. The higher the danger rating, the more detailed a plan and better understanding of the zone is needed. So when planning a day of riding, we think of general route and identify different play zones along that route. Within the route, there might be specific slopes we need to identify, but rather than ones to ride, we might be looking at to avoid them. Same with certain slopes within a play zone. We might need to identify which slopes we want to find or use features and which ones to avoid. As I'm working through this topic and trying to figure out how to get my point across, I'm thinking how similar the process really is when you take out some of the descriptors and specifics. We just change the scale of what we're looking at, and when on a sled, we cover a whole lot more terrain. All right, so I want to touch on another type of perspective when it comes to avalanche education. Most skiers and snowboarders learn to ride at ski areas. In fact, raise your hand if that was you. That's a whole lot of hands. With lodges, lifts, marked runs, and obvious advanced terrain that produces avalanches from time to time. Ski patrol, ski school, closed areas, avalanche mitigation are things that people see at ski areas. So as skiers and boarders, as we learn to ride, we're exposed to safety and avalanches. For example, last season, my 4-year-old son then goes to ski school at Palisades, Tahoe, and there was a large inbounds avalanche that closed the entire resort. Thankfully, it wasn't near the ski school area, and only a handful of people were actually involved. But my son was exposed to avalanches and avalanche terrain. So how many of you went through ski school, and how many of you knew that if you went into the backcountry, you would likely encounter avalanches? You might be thinking, yeah, it's all part of the game. Avalanches usually happen in the best terrain to ski. And human-powered avalanche education has actually been around for 30 years, give or take. So there's a lot of information about it before you even get into the backcountry. You actually have to develop your skills as a rider, or skier or rider, to be able to enter the backcountry, and chances are you previously already know about avalanches. Snowmobilers, on the other hand, picked up a sled at their snowmobile dealership and were told about a nearby trailhead, and hey, go let her rip. I'd bet that almost all trailheads in the mountains have avalanche terrain. No safety patrols, no avalanche mitigation, no ski school either. The closest thing to knowing about avalanches would be the highways that do control work. Motorized users have had to do it all on their own. There's no motorized resort. The only closed terrain that we know of is because of wilderness and specific non-motorized areas, not because of safety or conditions. There was nobody out there checking snowpack and throwing bombs saying, okay, now you can ride this. Motorized people just, it's like, go for it, right? There was nobody, motorized avalanche education wasn't even a thing, not even available until almost somewhere around 10 years ago, give or take, right? Not 30 years, unfortunately. So let me say that again. There was no option for motorized users to get formal avalanche education unless they put on skis or a snowboard. The rules of the backcountry fully apply to every snowmobiler, whether they know it or not. Sure, you can go ride groomed trails or stay on access roads. Unless those trails are on all flat ground and not in the mountains, then most of them, groomed or not, go through avalanche terrain. So all winter motorized users that ride in the mountains need to be aware that they're stepping into potential avalanche terrain every ride. All right, so back to my ski school comment and learning a sport in a controlled environment. Winter motorized use didn't have that option until the past 12 to 18 years where you could hire someone to actually teach you riding skills. or maybe hire a backcountry guide. So motorized users were really just handed a machine, pointed in the direction of fresh POW, epic mountains, and potential avalanches. Here you go, have fun, I'm sure it's safe. Over the past 15 or so years, snowmobiles and snow bikes have made drastic advances in the way they ride, handle, and even their power. This has changed the places we can go, the maneuvers we can do, and the way we ride the mountains. Basically, it's made it so we can go up, down, sideways, catch huge air, get inverted, carve POW, go farther, and really push the limits of riding. Now, before these newer machines, we were really limited on where we could go and what we could do. For example, riders used to attack one hill straight on over and over and over until they got to the top. And then they could get to the other side and do it again. So nowadays, if you don't make it on your first try, just turn sideways, side hill around, or zigzag your way up until you get to the top. We can also do full-on powder turns and big descents, much like skiing and snowboarding these days. One of the challenges on our machines, though, is communication. You can become quickly and easily separated from your group. In just a few seconds, someone can be around a corner, maybe about a mile away, or in a different drainage on the other side of a hill. You can't just yell at someone when they're not looking at you and have them hear you. So having a good group plan is key. Using radios can be a very important tool. Group dynamics are a huge factor on certain days. And what we teach to motorized users is to set a wide margin of safety on higher danger days, thus reducing the group's exposure to avalanche terrain. Now, most ski groups move together and at a pace that you can't even get away from your group if you tried. At least I can't. I'm not very fast on the up. Another bonus for snowmobiling and snow biking is when conditions are sketchy and the snowpack is very unstable, we can just hit super low angle terrain or flat terrain and still get great powder turns and really fun tree lines. These days, the things we're able to do on a snowmobile and the places we can go are just amazing, actually. Being able to control the machine as an extension of your body and getting to carve POW in the far reaches of the earth is unbelievable. Now, myself, with along of a handful of others, have been working towards a culture shift in the motorized community. And my perspective is that most motorized users have been riding in the backcountry for many years, building their experience. But what they're missing is pairing that experience with formal knowledge. We're a crusty crowd that doesn't like to get told what to know. We're a hands-on, real-world, show-me-how-that-works kind of crowd. All snow bikers and sledders should take avalanche education so we can all enjoy the backcountry and come home safe after every ride. It's more about understanding what you know and applying it in the field correctly. Pairing your experience with formal instruction is the best way to gain understanding. So I hope you've enjoyed some of that stuff and taken something away. I'm not sure, we're at 26 minutes. Maybe I'm close to nailing the time. That's great. I hope you guys have a great winter, and I hope you can interact with each other in the backcountry in a positive manner. I think there's a lot of tension depending on trailheads that you visit. And just remember, we're all there for the exact same reason. The motorized community loves the mountain just as you do, and our goal is to see it continue and to have our sport survive. So please give a high five, and if anybody ever offers you a ride, you should probably take them up on it. Thank you.
You don't get to leave quite yet. Yeah.
We're not going to let him
Right.
out that easily,
I want
are
this
we?
thing. Can I have this, the box?
Yeah, sure. There's also more mics over there. But this one's
Yeah, we're going to throw this.
this one's harder to break.
This is the coolest mic I've ever seen.
You guys, we just got a master class on how to move through terrain, regardless of what's under our feet. Who in this crowd, raise your hand if you've had a level 1, a rec level 1. Yeah, that's most of you. And what do you think? Did Duncan cover that material in way less than an hour? Yeah. Yeah. Easy to say. Let's go do. I'll be right on your shoulder. No, what are you doing going there? That's the voice that's on your shoulder.
Lynn, I'm ski cutting it. Don't worry, Lynn, I'm just throwing in a ski cut really quick.
Well, who's below you there, bud? It's my turn at the mic. Oh, God. Maybe a little less coffee. Who's got questions for this guy? Come on, question? Yeah. Here, Duncan, do your thing.
Where is it?
In front row, your left.
Ready?
I guess my question is the relationship between backcountry skiing and like split board users and snowmobilers. How can we all communicate and respect each other in the backcountry? Like an example, I guess, would be on ocean. As the technology in snowmobiles go up, I see that snowmobiles like, wait, is it working?
Yeah, oh yeah. Come,
I
keep
see
talking.
that snowmobiles like keep going up each year, like with high marking and stuff, and like creating like those ski cuts. How like, granted, we need to take into like what people are like below us and what people are above us in case people trigger an avalanche, and how that will affect in the long run.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck with that one. I wish I knew how to bridge that gap. I think you guys are gonna, if you stick around, hopefully you do, for Kelly McNeil's and Ian's presentation. They've got a lot of really amazing data. And I think what I'm getting at is the amount of education that's out there to operate safely in the backcountry. I think every user needs to start with a level 1. And then, as we always talk about, it's lifelong learning. Like, there is no end to it. So in the motorized world, we're still in an uphill battle to get people to understand to take avalanche education. And I think from some of the data, it's quite shocking at the percentage that actually have taken courses. And I think through a formal course is the only way you actually understand how to move through terrain correctly and really pay attention. Now, common sense would say look below you to see what's going on, and don't park underneath a slope that your buddy's gonna go high mark. But time and time again, we see these fatalities happen. And how to reach that crowd? Man, I've been 10 years trying and we're still going at it. So I think we are working towards that shift, but it's still an uphill road. So help spread the word.
I'm actually going to put on my opinion hat, which I really never tick off. And what, you're laughing at me? Hey, I'm being serious, come on. And I think that mentorship has a lot to do with it, that a course is good and fine, but then when you go into the mountains and you go with people who are more experienced, that it's the job of the people who are more experienced to explain to the newbies and to behave well. So that's, I think mentorship is that. More questions? Questions for Duncan? Okay, there's one over here. Here, pop that box over. Yeah, just throw it.
Just start throwing it.
Yeah, just start throwing it. Give
Somebody
us
will catch it.
an assist.
Okay.
Look out.
Uphill.
Look out.
Send her uphill.
Over there. Over there.
Or to the right. Or
No. Oh.
skiers left.
Uh-oh.
Where are we going? There we go.
All right.
Interception.
Oh, I got a question here.
Oh, you're poaching the line, but we'll let you have it.
Wow, he just pulled to the side and let him shred.
Yeah, because there's a moderator. Lynn's on your shoulder. Yo, slick. Give it up. All right, now it's your turn.
So my question is, if you are on a sled and you get caught in a slide, is there any kind of best practice of like things you should make sure of, like try to side hill it out of it or shoot it down, outrun it, or make sure you're like on the uphill side of your sled, like anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, from personal experience, there's usually one option. And it includes this, which is your throttle side. And you'll notice my hand is closed, wrapped around the throttle, pointed in a safe direction downhill. Outrunning it tends to be the safest option just because if you trigger a slab avalanche, your snowmobile is probably on the bed surface. And who's tried to put a snowmobile on edge on a hard bed surface before? It's doable, but not great outcome most of the time. So you're kind of sliding. So if you can get it pointed downhill and outrun the said avalanche, then you could still be standing here today. But really scary, and watch out for the stock wall, and there's a whole another list of things. I mean, there is no best practice, just get away from it. Good luck. Avoidance, that one, yeah.
Once again, I got something to say. But, hey, don't do that gesture. I'm just going to quote Doug Coombs, because he's, well, maybe not smarter than me, but because he's not here anymore. But he said, no, I love Doug, and this is a wonderful quote from him, is that when you embark into high-risk terrain, is that you have in your eyeball and in your mind, you know where your escape route is. You're like, I'm gonna ride this, and I'm gonna shoot off to the right if it hits the fan. It's easier said than done, but that's something that Doug taught me, is to have that escape in your head. Yeah.
That just plays right back to what's above me, what's below me, what happens if this slides.
I hope you don't think I was disparaging Doug. I apologize. Next question, they're back to you.
Sure. I feel like in my rec class years ago, we were taught skiing, you interact with maybe about the top meter. I'm sure in cases that's more, but how do you assess like the depth that you're going to impact on a sled with so much heavier and have so much more power? Like, what are some ways that you can, maybe just find the test slope like you were talking about yesterday, but.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the best way to do it is figure it out on your own. So understand the different positions you can put your machine in and what effect that actually has, because side hilling across the slope puts a different pressure as turning your, like diving a spindle, which is where the ski connects to the shock area for those non-motorized users. And you can really dive that portion of the machine going downhill, like into a powder turn, and put that 500-ish pounds with the rider on it into that one spot. Or going up the slope using the track as a chainsaw is a different type of pressure. So there's a lot of different ways to affect the weak layer, and it always varies, as we kind of know. And like the science behind pressure bulb, good luck.
Great question. Really good question. Pop that one up on the balcony, if you can.
He's got the loud voice, I think, yeah.
Oh, incoming, incoming. Nice.
That is the coolest mic.
Yeah. All right, is that Caleb?
It is, yeah.
All right,
Hey-
go Caleb.
Hey, Duncan. When do you see manufacturers of snowmobiles starting to subsidize avalanche education? When you're spending $15,000, what's another $400 tacked onto that, and people just get an avalanche course?
$15,000 is for a used sled.
Right, I know. Yeah.
I think 26 is the new mark for a brand new turbo.
There you go.
Yeah.
Before the Farkles.
Yeah. I don't know, and there's organizations that have been trying to break into ISMA, the International Snowmobile Manufacturers Association, and great question. If I knew, I think we would see hanging tags and some sort of more participation, but I also believe their lawyers have some sort of say on you're acknowledging some sort of liability then. It's a tough call. I wish they would. Some do kind of separate things in outreach, but yeah, there's no clear answer to that one.
Thanks, Duncan. Call me. Let's do it.
I think you will see that Bridger Teton Avalanche Center, that BTAC, does a fair amount of outreach with sled groups around our user area. So tune in to our education page, or he's going to kill me. Give Dwayne a call. I think we. One more question. Hang on.
Incoming.
Kevin Grove is coming at you. Woo! Look out.
Nice.
Hey, Duncan, thanks. I really appreciate your talk. I was just thinking, when you're traveling in a group, what's your mindset around keeping eyes on partners? Are you feeling like you're effectively solo, or how are you keeping tabs on each other?
Eyes on in my group is vital, and if you're not, then you're probably not invited back ever again. And it also depends on the danger of the day, and if you're tangoing with certain avalanche problems. So without eyes on, yeah, you're solo, and that you're going to be exposed solo and have nobody to rescue you. So without eyes on, you're really making a bad decision, I feel like.
I think that's a great way to close Duncan out. Without eyes on, you're effectively solo. That's a good one. That's no matter what you're riding on. For further questions, meet Duncan out in the lobby later, and give him a big hand of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.